Have you ever witnessed a betrayal so brazen, so twisted, that it felt ripped straight from a scandalous TV? Drama picture a glamorous millionaire, the devoted wife who carried his child for 9 long months, and a shiny honeymoon plan that hid a secret so dark it would captivate the entire world. The lavish hotel corridors held more than just gossip. They housed evidence that would shatter reputations and turn a marriage into a battlefield. Prepare yourself for a story of love, seduction, and betrayal on a scale you never thought possible, a cautionary tale that proves money can buy many things, but never loyalty. Bianca Hall was not born with a silver spoon. She grew up in the small town of Norwich, Connecticut, in a modest family with middle-class values. Her parents, Diana and Martin Hall, ran a local bakery that barely managed to stay afloat. From an early age, Bianca understood the virtues of hard work and perseverance. While she and her younger sister Cynthia spent their weekends kneading dough and packing pastries, Bianca nurtured bigger dreams of traveling the world and savoring the finest luxuries life had to offer. Those dreams began to sprout wings when she won a full scholarship to Georgetown University. The city lights of Washington, D.C. were a far cry from the humble streets of Norwich, and at first she felt like an imposter among polished classmates. But it didn't take long for her confidence to shine. She majored in international relations, thinking a career in diplomacy would open doors to the sophisticated life she always craved. Her first job post-graduation was with an embassy in Berlin, a position that taught her about the upper echelons of society. She rubbed shoulders with ambassadors, business magnates, and even had a brief encounter with the famous investor Warren Buffett at a global finance event. Every conversation, every interaction was an opportunity to build connections, yet her personal life remained unremarkable. She dated occasionally, but never found someone who matched both her ambition and her hunger for adventure. Then, at a conference on sustainable energy hosted at the famed Hotel Adlon Kempinski in Berlin, fate intervened. That's where she met the tall, suave, and impossibly wealthy Marcus Everly. A British-born American entrepreneur, Marcus was famous in certain circles for his dynamic energy businesses and philanthropic endeavors in Africa. The rumor was that he had turned down an invitation to speak at the World Economic Forum, to attend this smaller event, purely for business reasons, but no one really knew the truth. During a welcome cocktail hour, Bianca found herself seated next to Marcus by chance. He was magnetic and charming, weaving stories of his entrepreneurial ventures with ease. Marcus had this subtle confidence that wasn't brash but commanded attention. He admitted he had come to Berlin to scout alternative energy solutions and maybe meet some interesting people along the way. By the end of the evening, he was thoroughly impressed by Bianca's intelligence and wit. A whirlwind romance ensued. The two discovered a shared love for classical music, exotic cuisines, and philanthropic projects. They explored Berlin's hidden gems together, from rooftop bars overlooking the Spree River to understated art galleries in Prenzlauer Berg. Through it all, Marcus was the perfect gentleman, showering Bianca with thoughtful gifts, from rare books on European diplomacy to an heirloom brooch once owned by his great-grandmother. It felt like the seeds of her dream were blossoming. Bianca saw a future filled with excitement, possibilities, and yes, that elusive luxury she always yearned for. If this man was a window into the life she aspired to, she was ready to fling it wide open. Little did she know how that very window would soon reveal more than she ever bargained for. It didn't take long for Marcus to sweep Bianca off her feet. 1 week after their first meeting, he invited her to a private dinner at the iconic Reichstag building, pulling strings to secure an exclusive table overlooking the Berlin skyline, over a bottle of vintage Dom Perignon. They spoke about their dreams, hers of bridging cultural gaps with diplomacy, his of revolutionizing the renewable energy sector. After that night, their relationship soared at breakneck speed. Marcus split his time between London, Washington, D.C., and occasionally Dubai for business, yet he made it a point to meet Bianca in Berlin every weekend. He'd charter a small private jet, one of the perks of being a millionaire with powerful connections, and whisk her away to neighboring European cities on quick romantic getaways. They sipped cappuccinos at quaint Parisian cafes, soaked in the thermal baths of Budapest, and cruised along the shimmering canals of Venice. Bianca's life was beginning to resemble a fairy tale. Of course, the media took notice. Marcus Everly's name commanded headlines whenever he was spotted with a potential love interest. Tabloid reporters speculated on who this young, sophisticated woman was. Some claimed she was a supermodel he discovered at a Berlin fashion show. Others declared her a brilliant political mind destined to become a future ambassador. Bianca brushed off these rumors. She wasn't into the spotlight, nor did she care for the paparazzi. She was too busy falling head over heels in love. Their bond deepened with every shared adventure. Marcus introduced her to his trusted circle of friends. One of them was Robert Caldwell, a close business partner who owned a line of luxury resorts across Europe. It was Robert who arranged for them to visit his private villa in Tuscany, a trip that would later play a crucial role in shaping Bianca's perception of Marcus's lifestyle. At that villa, Bianca saw another side of wealth, the extravagance, the unwritten rules of high society, and the hush-hush deals conducted behind closed doors. Sometimes, though she'd catch Marcus making cryptic phone calls, he would step outside onto a balcony, lower his voice, and speak in urgent tones. When Bianca asked who it was, Marcus would smoothly sidestep the question. "Just business, my love. Don't worry about it." She tried to brush it off. After all, a man of his stature had responsibilities and secrets tied to his industry. But a quiet sense of unease began to tug at her soul. Despite that gnawing doubt, the romance progressed. On a snowy evening under the Brandenburg Gate's radiant lights, Marcus proposed with a ring so dazzling it could make the stars jealous. Bianca was breathless, tears streaming down her cheeks as passers-by applauded the romantic spectacle. She said yes, and in that moment she believed she had found her forever. But the world of the rich and powerful had its own gravity, one that she was just beginning to feel. Bianca had no clue about the labyrinth of ambition, temptation, and betrayal lurking beneath the polished surface of Marcus Everly's empire. She was too captivated by the promise of a life that outshined her wildest dreams. The wedding took place at a grand castle outside Edinburgh, Scotland, owned by one of Marcus's longtime friends, Lord Andrew Kensington. Invitations were gilded, sealed with a wax emblem of two entwined initials, B and M. Attendees flew in from across the globe, ambassadors, business tycoons, celebrities, and even a few politicians from the UK and the United States. Marcus spared no expense, ensuring every detail was meticulously orchestrated. Bianca wore a designer gown, straight off the runway of Milan Fashion Week. Its lace detailing and flowing train made her look like a regal queen. Marcus looked equally majestic in a tailored three-piece suit from London's famed Savile Row. When they walked down the aisle, the hush of reverence was broken only by the soft notes of a live string quartet. Yet behind the opulence, several subtle warning signs flickered. During the rehearsal dinner, Bianca overheard hushed tones among a few guests referencing Marcus's complicated love life. An older lady, Lady Harriet Bromley, famous in British high society for her sharp tongue, remarked that Marcus had too much charm for his own good. When Bianca sought clarification, Lady Harriet gave her a pitiful smile and said, "He's one to watch, my dear. Be vigilant." Bianca dismissed it as idle gossip. Every wealthy man of stature was bound to have rumors swirling around him. She was determined not to let speculation tarnish the most important day of her life. Still doubt flickered in her heart when she noticed a woman with striking red hair flitting around the ceremony, a woman Bianca didn't recognize. She seemed to follow Marcus with her eyes, and once Bianca even caught them sharing an intense glance. When Bianca asked her maid of honor, Carla Addison, about the mysterious redhead, Carla just shrugged and said, "Maybe one of Marcus's business associates." Despite these niggling worries, the wedding day itself was immaculate. Vows were exchanged under an archway of red roses. Tears were shed, and the union was sealed with a passionate kiss. The reception was a decadent affair, featuring a gourmet Scottish-Italian fusion menu, endless champagne, and musical performances that stretched late into the night. Marcus's best man, Robert Caldwell, gave a lively speech describing his friend as a fearless entrepreneur and a man who knows what he wants. Bianca flushed with happiness, and perhaps a bit of champagne believed every word. Little did she know the woman with the red hair was no ordinary guest. Her name was Jessica Wilkins, a prominent interior designer from London, and someone with a history far more intertwined with Marcus than anyone let on. Looking at them, one might think Jessica was simply an acquaintance, but the glances they shared spoke volumes about what truly simmered beneath the surface. Soon after the wedding, Marcus whisked Bianca away on a one-week tour of the Scottish Highlands before they returned to their new home, an opulent penthouse in London's Knightsbridge district. Bianca assumed this was just a brief respite. The real honeymoon, according to Marcus, would happen months later when time permitted. She was unaware that Marcus had an entirely different reason for postponing their official honeymoon, a reason that would prove devastating beyond her wildest imagination. Life in London felt like an ongoing fairy tale, at least at the outset. Marcus had purchased a penthouse perched atop a luxury high-rise, offering a sweeping view of Hyde Park. The interiors were a testament to wealth: marble floors, hand-carved fixtures, and modern art pieces worth small fortunes. He also hired a personal chef and a staff of housekeepers to ensure Bianca never had to lift a finger. For a while, Bianca relished the change. She traded her embassy job in Berlin for a role as a freelance consultant on cultural diplomacy, working mostly from home. Her days were filled with philanthropic events and charity auctions, where she accompanied Marcus, dazzling the room with her intelligence and refined manners. The couple was featured in society pages often hailed as a power duo with philanthropic hearts. Whenever they stepped out in public, they radiated that newlywed glow. 2 months after the wedding, Bianca began to experience unusual bouts of nausea and fatigue. She chalked it up to London's notoriously unpredictable weather, or the stress of adjusting to a new routine. Yet the symptoms persisted. One morning, while Marcus was away on a business trip to Dubai, she finally decided to see a doctor. The results were life-changing. She was pregnant. Initially, she was flooded with joy. Having children was something she had always envisioned with Marcus, though they had not planned on it so soon. Without hesitation, she called him, voice trembling with excitement. On the other end, she heard a pause, a beat longer than she had expected, before Marcus responded with a mixture of surprise and a forced enthusiasm. That's wonderful news, Bianca. We'll celebrate when I'm back, he said, but his tone held a peculiar edge. Marcus returned a week later, showering Bianca with designer baby accessories from Gucci onesies to a crystal-encrusted pacifier. He arranged for her to see the best obstetrician in London, Dr. Lydia Shaw, whose clientele consisted almost exclusively of royals and celebrities. The gestures seemed loving, but Bianca couldn't shake the feeling that his smiles didn't quite reach his eyes. As her belly began to grow, so did the distance between them. Marcus's business trips became more frequent. He'd fly to the Middle East, Asia, or across the Atlantic at the drop of a hat. When Bianca tried to schedule quality time like a simple dinner or a relaxing weekend at their countryside estate, he always had a board meeting, a project that demanded his immediate attention, or an emergency that only he could resolve. Bianca wanted to be understanding. After all, that drive was what made Marcus successful. But loneliness loomed large in her marble fortress overlooking Hyde Park. Tensions flared occasionally. One evening after Marcus cancelled a long-planned dinner date, Bianca confronted him. He brushed her concerns aside with a dismissive kiss on the forehead, saying, "You're being hormonal." "Relax, darling." That night, Bianca cried herself to sleep, feeling an unsettling heaviness in her heart, a weight that no amount of wealth or prestige could ease. She had no inkling that these lonely nights were merely the quiet before an impending storm, a storm that would upend her life the moment the true nature of Marcus's business trips and personal entanglements were exposed. As her pregnancy advanced, Bianca found solace in small joys. She spent mornings painting in her sunlit studio, a hobby she had picked up in college, and afternoons browsing for baby essentials or strolling along the boutiques in Knightsbridge. Yet she sensed something was amiss in Marcus's world. Whispers circulated among his circle of acquaintances, and her intuition kept telling her that he was hiding something. Her suspicions deepened when she received an unexpected call from Carla Addison, her old friend and maid of honor. Carla, who worked in New York as a fashion buyer, recounted a bizarre story. She claimed to have seen Marcus at a lounge in Manhattan 1 week earlier, except Carla could have sworn Marcus was supposed to be in Shanghai for a business conference. More striking was that Carla saw him in the company of a red-haired woman who clung to his arm with an unsettling familiarity. The description reminded Bianca of that mysterious woman at their wedding. Bianca confronted Marcus that evening. His initial reaction was anger. He demanded to know why she was spying on him and insisted the redhead was just a colleague, Jessica Wilkins, an interior designer he'd hired to renovate one of his properties. He argued that he flew to New York instead of Shanghai on a last-minute deal. It's business, he insisted. Besides, Jessica's ideas are brilliant. I had to finalize some design details before we could move forward. But the logic didn't fully add up. Why would an interior design consultation involve a late-night lounge? Hoping to soothe Bianca's nerves, he announced a grand plan they would finally embark on their official honeymoon. "Let's do it before the baby arrives," he said, stroking Bianca's hair gently. "We'll go somewhere luxurious, a paradise to help you relax." Bianca, desperate to believe him, agreed. Despite feeling uneasy, she clung to the hope that this was Marcus's way of refocusing on their marriage and the imminent arrival of their child. Unbeknownst to Bianca, though, Marcus had made other arrangements that involved Jessica Wilkins. The honeymoon was booked at an exotic, ultra-private resort in the Maldives, one of Robert Caldwell's high-end properties. Marcus had reserved a breathtaking overwater villa complete with an infinity pool that melted into the turquoise ocean. The plan, however, was as twisted as it was cunning. He intended to travel there with Bianca, initially, then find a cover story to send her home early, so he could extend his stay with Jessica. What fueled this madness? For Marcus, it was a toxic blend of entitlement, a need for excitement, and a simmering desire for Jessica, who had been his secret lover long before Bianca entered the picture. Jessica, for her part, craved more than occasional trysts. She wanted Marcus to herself, his wealth, his influence, and the thrill of conquering a man who belonged to someone else. Together they orchestrated a plan so brazen it seemed destined to implode. But in their pursuit of dangerous desires, they grossly underestimated the resilience of a woman about to become a mother and the unpredictable twists of fate that awaited them at the lavish Maldivian resort. By the time Bianca reached her 9th month of pregnancy, her doctor advised against long-haul flights. But Marcus insisted. "This might be our last chance to holiday before the baby arrives," he said, his voice brimming with manufactured sincerity. The invitation was too tempting for Bianca to refuse. She was exhausted, weighed down by her swollen ankles and the emotional toll of suspecting her husband's fidelity. A heavenly retreat sounded like the perfect antidote. So off they went, boarding Marcus's private jet, bound for the Indian Ocean. It was a luxurious flight. Bianca reclined in plush leather seats, sipping herbal tea while flipping through a magazine featuring A-list celebrities on similar island getaways. In fleeting moments, she allowed herself to believe Marcus was truly concerned about her well-being. He assured her that he had arranged for a special on-site doctor at the resort, just in case she needed medical attention. Despite lingering doubts, she felt a glimmer of hope. Upon arriving in the Maldives, the couple was greeted by staff from Robert Caldwell's resort. Their villa was the epitome of luxury, a thatched roof over a spacious living area. Glass floors offering a view of vibrant coral reefs below, and a private deck that led straight into the crystalline lagoon. The sun-drenched sky overhead seemed to promise renewal, and for a short time Bianca relaxed in the illusion of marital bliss. But Marcus had an agenda. On the second day, he feigned a business emergency. "Robert needs me to accompany him on a day trip to meet with local officials he claimed wearing the apologetic look he had perfected over time." Bianca wasn't pleased. She had hoped for a couple's massage or a romantic dinner at sunset. Still, she tried to be supportive. The last thing she wanted was a confrontation that would mar what little peace she could find. Marcus left at dawn, and Bianca spent the day alone. She strolled along the powdery white beach, gazing at other honeymooners who seemed carefree and in love. By late afternoon, an uncomfortable tightness gripped her belly. Worried that it might be early contractions, she decided to head back to the villa to rest. That's when she spotted a boat in the distance approaching one of the resort's private docks. Through the lens of her sun hat's brim, she could make out Marcus's tall figure alongside Robert Caldwell and a woman with flaming red hair. Bianca's heart pounded. Could it be Jessica Wilkins? She watched as they disappeared into a secluded area of the resort just out of sight. Fear and suspicion wrestled in her mind. Was Marcus brazen enough to bring his mistress to their honeymoon destination? Later that evening, Marcus returned to the villa smelling of salt water and cologne. "The meeting ran long," he explained casually. "I'm sorry I missed our afternoon together." Bianca forced a smile, but an inner turmoil raged. She let him hold her, let him kiss her forehead, all while her mind replayed the image of Jessica's red hair flapping in the ocean breeze. A sleepless night followed. Bianca tossed and turned, haunted by the possibility that her husband was entertaining his mistress in the very place meant to celebrate their marriage. As dawn broke, she decided she would confront Marcus, though she had no solid proof yet. But fate has a way of delivering proof in the most unexpected manner. That day, one of the hotel staff, a young Maldivian woman named Arisa, approached Bianca with an air of urgency. She nervously explained that she had recognized Bianca from society magazines and knew she was Marcus Everly's wife. Arisa confessed she had stumbled upon security footage while performing her housekeeping duties. In one clip from the previous night, Marcus and a red-haired woman were seen entering a private suite near the spa. Bianca's trembling hands pressed against her pregnant belly as Arisa recounted the details. The footage showed them kissing passionately, Marcus's hand placed intimately on Jessica's waist. They appeared to be returning from a moonlit rendezvous. Arisa, empathizing with Bianca's visibly advanced pregnancy, couldn't stay silent. Bianca felt her world shatter in that moment. The scorching Maldives sun felt cold against her skin, and every breath came labored as if her lungs were drowning. Fear, betrayal, heartbreak all collided at once. She gripped Arisa's arm, tears pooling in her eyes. "Where can I see that footage?" she whispered, steeling herself for a devastating truth she already knew. Bianca barely slept the night after spotting Marcus with the red-haired woman near the private docks. Her instincts screamed what her heart refused to accept. Her husband, the man who had begged her to come on this final romantic escape before their baby arrived, had brought his mistress here, to their honeymoon destination, to the Maldives. Morning sun bled through the gauzy curtains of their villa, casting golden light over her troubled face. Her body ached not just from the weight of her pregnancy, but from the heaviness in her chest. Every movement felt slower, strained. She clutched her belly and whispered to her unborn son, "I'm sorry, baby. Mummy's trying." Then came the knock. It was Arisa, the young Maldivian woman, who had tidied their suite the day before. She looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder before slipping inside and closing the door behind her. Bianca's brows furrowed as she set aside her tea. "Mrs. Everly." Arisa began softly, her voice shaking. "I recognized you from the magazines. I know who you are, and I think you deserve to know something." Bianca straightened in her seat, her breath caught. Arisa clutched a folded piece of paper, handwritten directions. "Please don't tell anyone I told you. But I saw something. I work part-time with the security staff and sometimes help monitor the private bungalow area. Last night, I saw Mr. Everly with a red-haired woman entering one of the restricted spa villas. I couldn't stay quiet after that." Bianca's heart pounded. "Are you absolutely sure it was him?" "Yes. And there's footage. I saw it myself." Minutes later, Arisa guided Bianca through a back corridor of the resort, hidden from guests. They slipped into a narrow security room tucked behind the front reception. It smelled faintly of sea salt and disinfectant. On a sleek black monitor, Arisa clicked open a video file. The grainy footage flickered to life. Bianca leaned in. There he was. Marcus, dressed in linen pants and a short-sleeved shirt, confidently walking down the lantern-lit path beside the spa bungalows. And there, right beside him, was Jessica Wilkins, her unmistakable red hair catching the moonlight like fire. They were holding hands. Then, in a moment that shattered any remaining doubt, Marcus leaned in and kissed her slow and possessive. Bianca's stomach turned. Her body felt like it was shutting down. Arisa, watching her closely, whispered, "There's more." Another clip. Hours later, Marcus and Jessica emerging from the bungalow laughing. Jessica clung to his arm like she had claimed it. They didn't even try to be discreet. Bianca pressed a trembling hand to her swollen belly. Her skin went cold. Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. She refused to let them not hear, not now. "I need copies of this," she said hoarsely. Arisa nodded. "I'll transfer them to your room, TV. Discreetly. You'll be able to confront him if that's what you want." Back at the villa, Bianca paced, replaying the footage in her mind. Her limbs ached, and her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was fact captured on camera, time-stamped, undeniable. When Marcus finally strolled in just after sunset, his shirt open at the collar and his hair still damp from a late swim, Bianca felt a surge of fury so intense it made her knees weak. She didn't speak. Instead, she grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. The screen flickered, then displayed the footage. Marcus froze. The confident grin on his face faded into disbelief. Then panic. "Bianca." "I don't," she said, voice cracking. "Don't insult me by lying again." He took a step forward. "It's not what it looks like." She let out a hollow laugh. "So the kissing. The bungalow. The hours you spent with her while I was here alone and 9 months pregnant. That's not what it looks like. It was a mistake." She showed up unexpectedly. She was upset. I didn't know how to turn her away without making a scene. Bianca turned to face him, eyes burning with a fury that had built for months. "You brought your mistress to our honeymoon, while your child is literally growing inside of me. How dare you?" Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but a sharp, stabbing pain suddenly ripped through Bianca's abdomen. She doubled over, clutching her belly. "Bianca!" He rushed toward her. She waved him off. "Don't touch me." Another wave of pain shot through her stronger than before. Her legs buckled, and she fell to her knees. Marcus, now terrified, reached for his phone. "I'm calling the doctor. Just stay with me, Bianca, please." But Bianca was focused on only one thing, the little life inside her, now responding to her stress and heartbreak. As Marcus frantically made the call, she whispered through gritted teeth, "You'll never come near him again. I swear it." The morning after Bianca confronted Marcus with the damning hotel footage, the ripples of betrayal began to churn into tidal waves. What started as a private heartbreak soon evolved into an explosive public scandal. A junior employee at the Maldivian resort had leaked anonymous tips to a gossip blog, which was quickly picked up by international tabloids. Within 48 hours, headlines blazed across digital screens from London to New York. Millionaire mogul takes mistress on honeymoon. Pregnant wife unknowingly shares resort. Honeymoon horror. Expecting wife walks in on husband's secret affair. Caught on camera. Marcus Everly's double life exposed in paradise. Bianca awoke in the resort infirmary. She had passed out from the stress and contractions, narrowly avoiding early labor, thanks to quick medical intervention. Her doctor insisted she remain under observation for at least 24 hours. The stress was deemed a dangerous trigger, and she needed immediate rest. But rest was impossible when the world seemed to be watching her every move. Back in London, chaos erupted. Outside their Knightsbridge penthouse, paparazzi camped in droves. Shouting reporters crowded the gates, hoping to catch a shot of the betrayed wife or the disgraced mogul. Even security struggled to manage the frenzy. Social media exploded with public opinion. Celebrities, influencers, and everyday people chimed in with their outrage and sympathy. Bianca's quiet grace and the image of her heavily pregnant frame, wrapped in a silk shawl as she boarded the plane home, became symbolic of strength in the face of unforgivable betrayal. The footage, though grainy, had done enough damage. Public perception swiftly turned against Marcus. For Marcus, it was a nightmare unraveling in real time. His PR team scrambled to contain the firestorm. They drafted statements claiming a misunderstanding, suggesting the footage was taken out of context, and the woman involved was a long-time business associate. But it was too late. The image of Jessica Wilkins with her unmistakable red hair and sultry smile had been burned into the public memory. Her name, once associated with high-end interior design, now trended on social platforms for all the wrong reasons. Jessica herself went into hiding. Tabloid reporters camped outside her London flat. Rumors circulated that she had fled the country entirely. Spain, Morocco, even Dubai were named. Some said she was receiving hush money from Marcus to disappear until the heat cooled down. Her firm quietly removed her profile from their website. Clients cancelled contracts. In a matter of days, her career crumbled. Inside the penthouse, Marcus raged. He shouted at staff, tore through papers, and hurled his phone at the wall when another investor dropped out of a lucrative deal. Board members from his energy company began raising concerns. A few resigned. Others demanded a formal review of his leadership. One prominent business partner issued a scathing public statement declaring his disappointment in Marcus's ethical failure and withdrawing future collaboration. Bianca, meanwhile, landed quietly in London with Carla by her side. They avoided the penthouse altogether and checked into a discreet hotel under an alias. From there, Bianca's doctor scheduled regular checkups to ensure the baby's health hadn't been compromised. Miraculously, Ethan was still thriving. But the emotional toll weighed heavily. Carla proved to be Bianca's rock. She handled calls, spoke to the lawyer, and filtered out toxic news updates so Bianca could rest. On one particularly difficult evening, Bianca sat on the hotel balcony watching the sunset as tears streamed down her cheeks. "I loved him," she whispered, her hand resting on her swollen belly. "I gave him everything. And he used our honeymoon to hide her." Carla wrapped an arm around her. "He may have fooled the world for a while, but not anymore. You have truth on your side now, and you have Ethan." Bianca nodded slowly. "He's the only reason I can breathe right now." A few days later, Marcus attempted to visit her at the hotel. Armed with flowers, luxury gifts, and a rehearsed apology, he tried to charm the front desk into letting him through. Security blocked him at Bianca's request. When that didn't work, Marcus released a statement to the press, claiming he was devastated by the recent breakdown in his marriage and committed to repairing the damage privately. It backfired. Public sympathy only grew for Bianca. A well-known talk show host even dedicated a segment to her story, calling it a modern-day cautionary tale about women trusting wolves in expensive suits. Then came the hospital visit. Bianca had gone into early labor. The stress and exhaustion had finally caught up with her body. Carla rushed her to London Maternity Centre, where doctors worked through the night to stabilize the delivery. After 12 grueling hours, Bianca gave birth to a baby boy, Ethan Martin Everly. The moment Ethan's cries echoed through the delivery room, a rush of emotion consumed Bianca. Love, pain, triumph, and fear all collided as she held her newborn in her arms. His tiny face scrunched, his fists curled tightly. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "I'll protect you, no matter what it takes." Carla cried beside her, overwhelmed by the beauty of the moment. In contrast to the media storm outside, that hospital room became a sanctuary of peace and beginnings. Outside reporters swarmed. Rumors of the birth had leaked, and everyone wanted the first glimpse of the scandal baby, as one tasteless tabloid called him. But Bianca wasn't giving them a show. When Marcus arrived hours later, security refused him entry once again. Bianca had made her wishes clear. No visits, no contact, no grand gestures. He sent flowers and letters to her hospital room, but she had them all removed. In one note, he had written, "I want to be part of our son's life. Please let me make this right." Bianca didn't even open it. She wasn't ready to hear promises anymore, especially from a man who shattered every vow he had ever made. As news of Ethan's birth circulated, the public embraced the narrative of Bianca as the fierce new mother standing against betrayal. Women across the globe rallied behind her, sending messages of support and solidarity. Hashtags like #StandWithBianca and #JusticeForEthan trended for days. And though Bianca had yet to speak publicly, her silence became its own powerful message. She was done giving Marcus her voice. Her focus was her son, her next move. To ensure Ethan's future would never be dictated by his father's lies. She was no longer just the woman he betrayed. She was the woman he underestimated, and the mother who would now take him to court. 2 weeks after giving birth, Bianca was cleared by her doctors to leave the hospital, though her heart was still far from healed. She didn't return to the opulent Knightsbridge penthouse, the site of too many broken promises, but instead moved into a discreet, high-security serviced apartment near the River Thames. The location had been arranged by Patricia Morgan, her lawyer, to shield Bianca and baby Ethan from the relentless paparazzi. Carla Addison stayed with her, becoming more than just a best friend. She was a support system, a second mother to Ethan, and a fierce protector. She fielded phone calls, kept reporters at bay, and held Bianca through countless nights when the pain refused to fade. Despite the elegant interior of the apartment, the mood inside was heavy. Bianca was navigating sleepless nights, not only because of her newborn, but also due to the legal war that loomed like a thundercloud overhead. Marcus predictably launched a full-scale charm offensive. He sent flowers, grandiose, fragrant arrangements that filled the lobby until the concierge politely asked them to stop. He wrote long, self-pitying emails, left voice messages saying he had made a mistake, and once even tried to visit Bianca unannounced. When he pounded on her door demanding to see his son, Carla stood between them with fire in her eyes and warned she'd call the police if he didn't leave. "You've lost the right to shout on her doorstep," Carla hissed. "Get a lawyer." And he did. Marcus retained an elite legal team from a firm notorious for handling the divorces of celebrities and politicians. The firm's reputation was built on suppressing scandals, spinning media narratives, and settling out of court. But Patricia Morgan wasn't intimidated. She knew their tactics, and more importantly, she had irrefutable evidence, the hotel footage, eyewitness testimony, and public sentiment on her side. Bianca's main goal wasn't financial revenge. She told Patricia clearly, "I want to protect my son. Marcus can't be trusted with a child's future when he couldn't even respect his wife during her most fragile moment." Patricia nodded. "Then we go for sole custody. No loopholes, no shared holidays. You'll have control, and he'll have to prove himself legally and morally before getting even supervised visits." Bianca braced herself. She had weathered public humiliation, but now she had to face Marcus in person at a formal legal mediation session held in Patricia's office. A conference room that usually hosted business negotiations was now a war room. Bianca sat at one end of a long mahogany table, Ethan sleeping in a sling across her chest. Her hair was neatly pinned back, and she wore a navy blue dress, simple, elegant, and resolute. Marcus arrived 10 minutes late, flanked by 3 lawyers in bespoke suits. He looked worn down, his once proud posture now slightly hunched, his eyes bloodshot. When he saw Ethan for the first time, he faltered. His voice cracked as he said, "He's beautiful. He looks like you." Bianca said nothing. She didn't need to. The meeting began with Patricia presenting Bianca's demands: full legal and physical custody of Ethan, a generous financial settlement, and a complete gag order, preventing Marcus from spinning the story publicly in a way that would harm Bianca's name or Ethan's future. Marcus's lawyers countered quickly, offering a substantial lump sum of money enough to keep Bianca in comfort for the rest of her life if she agreed to joint custody, and issued a statement downplaying the alleged infidelity. Bianca's knuckles turned white. She shook her head. "No amount of money will buy back my dignity. I'm not settling so Marcus can pretend to the world that what he did wasn't monstrous." Marcus leaned forward, trying to sound reasonable. "It was an affair, Bianca. People make mistakes. It didn't change how I felt about you or about being a father." Bianca let out a humorless laugh. "Didn't change how you felt, Marcus. You brought your mistress on our honeymoon. I was 9 months pregnant, and you left me in that villa so you could sneak off to another woman's suite. And now you think I should let you help raise my son?" "You're emotional," Marcus said, frustration bleeding into his voice. "You're angry, and I get that. But this isn't just about us anymore. Ethan is my son too." Bianca leaned forward, meeting his eyes squarely. "No. You lost the right to say that when you chose deception over decency. If you cared about Ethan, you would have chosen honesty. You would have protected his mother, not humiliated her." The air in the room tightened. Even Marcus's own legal team seemed to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Patricia pounced on the moment. "If your client wishes to avoid further public disgrace," she said coolly, "I suggest he reconsider his position. We're prepared to go to court with additional footage. Depositions, witnesses. This will not end well for him." Marcus turned red. "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact," Patricia replied. "And facts don't bend for billionaires." After 3 hours of impasse, no agreement was reached. But it was clear who held the stronger hand. Marcus's empire was cracking under media pressure and investor scrutiny. Every day the case dragged on, Bianca's reputation soared, and his plummeted. Back in the apartment, Bianca collapsed into the couch as Carla brewed her tea. She looked down at Ethan's tiny face, his fingers curled around hers. "He's why I can't give up," she whispered. "He deserves a father who doesn't treat people like chess pieces." Carla nodded. "And he has a mother who's willing to fight to the end." Bianca didn't know how long the legal battle would stretch, or what tricks Marcus might still try. But she did know one thing for certain. She would not be bullied, bribed, or broken. She may have been shattered in the Maldives, but here in London, she was reforging herself. Not as Marcus Everly's wife, not as a tabloid headline, but as Ethan's protector, as a woman who had walked through betrayal fire and public disgrace and come out stronger. Justice wasn't just about court rulings. It was about drawing lines, holding ground, and never again letting someone decide your worth. And Bianca Hall had drawn her line in unshakable stone. As the scandal surrounding Marcus Everly's betrayal spiraled into an international tabloid frenzy, Bianca Hall found herself at the center of a media storm she never asked for, but would come to master. The public had caught wind of every sordid detail: the footage from the Maldives, the mistress on the honeymoon, and the pregnant wife blindsided in paradise. While some skeptics whispered cruel suspicions of gold-digging and fame-chasing, the overwhelming tide of public sympathy leaned heavily in Bianca's favor. Her poise, her pregnancy, and her refusal to retaliate publicly painted her not as a victim, but as a woman of immense strength. Behind the flashing cameras and paparazzi flashbulbs, however, the real war was waging in courtrooms and legal chambers. Bianca's lawyer, the seasoned and tenacious Patricia Morgan, mounted a case that would leave Marcus's legal team scrambling. With decades of experience navigating high-profile divorces, Patricia moved with clinical precision, turning the betrayal into a timeline of calculated deceit. One of the turning points came when a former staffer from the Maldivian resort submitted a sworn affidavit. The statement confirmed that Marcus had explicitly arranged for Jessica Wilkins to have her own private bungalow, mere steps from the suite he shared with his heavily pregnant wife. The intent was clear, and the court took notice. No one could claim it was a spur-of-the-moment lapse. This was premeditated infidelity on an unimaginable scale. Still, Marcus's team wasn't backing down without a fight. They flooded the court with arguments portraying Marcus as a misguided but devoted man who simply made an unfortunate mistake. Marcus himself took the stand during one critical hearing. Once a picture of polished confidence, he now looked pale and exhausted under the courtroom lights. His voice cracked as he addressed the judge, admitting to the affair, but insisting it had nothing to do with his role as a father. "I was under immense pressure," Marcus claimed. "I acted out of confusion and stress, not because I don't care about Bianca or my child. I love my son. I want to be a father to him." From her seat across the courtroom, Bianca listened in silent fury. Every word Marcus spoke felt like an erasure of her agony, of the nights she cried herself to sleep, of the moment she watched that security footage while gripping her unborn child. Her composure never cracked, but her eyes told the truth: she would never forgive what he had done. Patricia's cross-examination was swift and merciless. She reminded the court of the extensive planning Marcus had put into the honeymoon, the trail of receipts, the video timestamps, and the secrecy that made it all possible. She highlighted his manipulation, his gaslighting, and most of all his indifference to Bianca's emotional and physical well-being during her most vulnerable stage of life. Jessica Wilkins, meanwhile, became a ghost. She vanished from the UK social scene entirely with whispers, suggesting she had been paid handsomely to lie low, possibly in Spain or Morocco. Her refusal to testify further weakened Marcus's credibility. Every day, she remained absent, reinforced the image of Marcus as a man who not only betrayed his wife, but dragged others into a web of moral rot. In private meetings, Marcus's attorneys proposed a jaw-dropping financial settlement. Bianca was offered a sum that could buy entire apartment buildings in London, but Patricia already knew her response. "It's not about the money," Bianca said firmly. "I don't want Ethan growing up thinking loyalty has a price tag." She demanded full legal and physical custody of Ethan. Marcus could have supervised visits, but she refused to let him become a part-time father when he couldn't even respect his full-time vows. The money would never erase the footage burned into her memory, the look on Marcus's face as he kissed Jessica under the same stars meant for their honeymoon. As the court proceedings dragged on, Bianca faced the grueling reality of raising a newborn amid turmoil. The public watched her every move. but behind closed doors, she was still healing. Postpartum recovery. Sleepless nights and the emotional trauma of betrayal left her drained. Carla remained her rock-juggling baby feedings and PR statements like a seasoned bodyguard and best friend rolled into one. Then came the final hearing. The courtroom was packed. Journalists lingered outside, ready to blast breaking headlines the moment the ruling dropped. Marcus looked deflated in his bespoke suit, his arrogance reduced to nervous glances and fidgeting fingers. Bianca, by contrast, looked radiant. Tired, yes, but resolute. She wore a simple black dress, her hair pulled back, and Ethan asleep in a baby carrier beside her. The judge's voice echoed across the chamber as she read her ruling based on overwhelming evidence of adultery, premeditated deceit, and emotional negligence. Full legal and physical custody of Ethan would be granted to Bianca Hall. Marcus would receive no visitation until a psychiatric evaluation and supervised family sessions could determine if he was fit to be involved in his son's upbringing. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Patricia allowed herself a small smile. Bianca closed her eyes, exhaling the breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The financial settlement was also approved, giving Bianca long-term financial stability, but the focus remained squarely on Ethan's welfare. Marcus, his face pale and jaw clenched, exited the courthouse under heavy security. He didn't answer a single question from the press. Outside, cameras swarmed Bianca. Carla stood beside her, holding Ethan protectively as microphones were thrust forward. Bianca didn't break stride. She paused briefly to speak into one mic. "I'm not here to celebrate," she said. "I'm here to rebuild. For my son. For me." Then she walked past the chaos, disappearing into a black car that drove her away from the courthouse and the wreckage Marcus had made of their marriage. In the days that followed, Marcus stepped down from multiple corporate boards under pressure from investors and PR advisors. Some of his partnerships dissolved entirely. Jessica Wilkins was never heard from again in public circles. And Bianca. She packed her things and returned to her roots. Back in Norwich, Connecticut, at the same modest bakery where she'd once kneaded dough as a teenager, Bianca began to rediscover her strength. She took joy in the ordinary rocking Ethan to sleep during soft New England sunsets, serving cupcakes to longtime neighbors, and feeling the quiet peace of a simpler life. No designer gowns, no gala dinners, just the warm scent of bread baking and the heartbeat of her son close to her chest. Her past with Marcus would never be forgotten, but it no longer defined her. She had chosen justice, and justice had chosen her too. Thank you for joining us on this tumultuous journey of love, betrayal, and ultimate redemption. Bianca's story reminds us that truth will surface no matter how cleverly it's hidden, and that the greatest strength often emerges when we're protecting what we love most. In the end, justice found its way, but not without heartbreak and a profound lesson on the cost of blind trust. If this story captured your attention and left you yearning for more dramatic twists and turns, help us continue sharing incredible tales just like this one. Like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring forward more stories of triumph, resilience, and cautionary wisdom for everyone to see. Thank you, and stay tuned for our next gripping narrative that you won't want to miss.